All right, welcome to Mastering Body Paragraphs Part 2, Fallacies and Appeals. In this lesson, you're going to learn to identify and revise fallacies in reasoning, transition logically between claims, evidence, and analysis, use ethos, pathos, and logos effectively, and differentiate between strong and weak evidence. First, in talking about the purpose of commentary in a body paragraph, we need to understand what is the purpose of commentary in a body paragraph. The purpose of commentary is to explain how the evidence supports the claim and to provide analysis that connects ideas logically. Key word here, logically. Gotta make sense. Commentary helps readers understand the reasoning behind the argument and shows the writer's critical thinking. Why do you think it's important to avoid logical errors in your writing? Avoiding logical errors ensures that your argument is credible, persuasive, and easy to follow. Logical errors or fallacies can undermine your reasoning, distract from your main points, and weaken your ability to convince your audience effectively. Part 1. Logical transitions and fallacies. What is logos? Definition: a logical appeal based on facts, reasoning, and evidence. Key components of logos is facts and data, otherwise known as verified information, logical reasoning, drawing sound conclusions, and structured arguments, linking claims, evidence, and conclusions. Why logos matters: it builds credibility, ethos, it enhances persuasiveness, and it provides clarity. What is a fallacy? A fallacy is a logical flaw or error in reasoning that weakens an argument. Fallacies often appear persuasive but fail under critical examination. Why do fallacies matter? Fallacies weaken credibility. They make arguments seem unreliable. They undermine logic. They distract from valid reasoning. Fallacies hinder persuasion. Readers are less likely to trust flawed arguments. Here are the top 10 fallacies covered in this presentation. They're also the most often committed by high school students: hasty generalization, strawman, false dichotomy, appeal to emotion, red herring, circular reasoning, slippery slope, bandwagon, appeal to ignorance, and false cause, also called by its Latin name, post hoc. Fallacy number 1, hasty generalization. What is it? It's drawing a conclusion from limited evidence. Why it's common? Students often draw broad conclusions from a single anecdote or limited evidence. For example, here's the claim: social media is bad for teenagers. Evidence: one survey found 15% of teens feel anxious after using social media. Commentary: since some teens feel anxious, social media harms all teenagers. Transition: thus, social media should be banned. Notice there's a difference between some and all. Here's a revised commentary, fixing that. While some teens feel anxious, others use social media to connect positively with peers. Addressing specific risks may reduce anxiety for those affected. Here's your first task: spot the hasty generalization. Read this paragraph and identify the fallacy. One teenager quit social media because it made them anxious. Therefore, all teens should avoid social media. Go. Okay, the fallacy in this paragraph is hasty generalization. Why? Because the argument assumes that because one teenager experienced anxiety from social media, the same effect applies to all teenagers. This conclusion is drawn from insufficient evidence. How to fix it? Provide broader evidence or research to support the claim. For instance, a study found that 20% of teenagers experience increased anxiety from excessive social media use. Therefore, it's important to monitor social media habits to reduce potential harm. Here's fallacy number 2, strawman. Strawman is misrepresenting an argument to make it easier to attack. Why it's common. Misrepresenting opposing views is easier than engaging with their complexities. They call it a straw man because it's easier to knock down a straw man than a real man. So, here's the claim. Some advocate for renewable energy sources. Evidence: solar and wind power reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Commentary: but opponents want us to abandon all fossil fuels immediately, which is unrealistic. Transition: therefore, renewable energy is impractical. Here's a revised commentary. Advocating for renewable energy doesn't mean eliminating fossil fuels immediately. Instead, it suggests a gradual transition to reduce dependence on non-renewable sources. Here's task number 2 for you. Do this on your handout. Rewrite to avoid the straw man. Renewable energy supporters want us to ban all fossil fuels tomorrow, which is unrealistic. Ready? Go. Okay, the original claim, remember, was renewable energy supporters want us to ban all fossil fuels tomorrow, which is unrealistic. The fallacy is it's a straw man. It's misrepresenting the actual claim to make it easier to refute. Here's a revision. Renewable energy supporters advocate for a gradual transition away from fossil fuels by investing in solar, wind, and other sustainable energy sources. This approach aims to reduce dependence on non-renewable resources over time while ensuring a stable energy supply. Why this works. The revised argument addresses the actual claim without exaggeration. It highlights a realistic approach to adopting renewable energy without dismissing the need for careful planning. This revision removes the straw man fallacy and strengthens the argument by accurately representing the opposing view. Here's number 3, false dichotomy. Presenting only 2 options when more exist. Why it's common? Students sometimes see issues in black and white terms rather than exploring nuanced solutions. This is also called a cognitive distortion in psychology and counseling, where people tend to see issues as either black or white and they don't see the shades of gray. So here's an example of a body paragraph with a false dichotomy in it. The claim is schools must implement mandatory physical education programs. The evidence is physical activity is important for children's health. The commentary is if schools don't enforce PE, children will become unhealthy and lazy. Transition. Therefore, mandatory PE is the only solution. So let's revise that commentary with, while mandatory PE is one option, offering extracurricular sports or flexible fitness programs could also promote health effectively. Task number 3, do this one on your handout. Expand to fix the false dichotomy. If schools don't enforce mandatory PE, kids will become lazy. Ready? Go. Okay, here's a revision for the claim. While mandatory PE is one way to promote physical activity, schools can also encourage fitness through extracurricular sports, wellness clubs, or flexible activity programs tailored to student interests. Why this revision works? It avoids the false dichotomy. It expands the argument beyond the two extremes of enforcing PE or kids becoming lazy. It introduces nuance, suggests alternative approaches to promoting health and fitness, and it maintains relevance. It addresses the importance of physical activity without oversimplifying the issue. Part 2, Persuasive Appeals and Fallacies. What is ethos? Ethos is an appeal to the credibility or character of the speaker or writer. It relies on the audience trusting the expertise, integrity, or qualifications of the argument's source. Here's an example. As a doctor with 20 years of experience, I recommend this treatment. Why this matters. Ethos establishes trust and authority, making arguments more convincing. Pathos is an appeal to emotions, aiming to inspire feelings such as empathy, fear, or hope. It relies on connecting with the audience's values or experiences. Here's an example. Imagine how much better life would be if every child had access to education. Why this matters. Pathos creates an emotional connection, motivating audiences to take care and to take action. Is this ethos, pathos, or logos? Identify which appeal is used in this sentence. As a teacher with 20 years of experience, I recommend later school start times. If you said ethos, you were correct. As a teacher with 20 years of experience, I recommend later school start times. Try this one. Imagine students thriving because they feel rested every morning. Ethos, pathos, or logos? If you said pathos, you are correct. Persuasive appeals strengthen arguments. For example, ethos is an example of ethos. As a teacher with 20 years of experience, establishing credibility. Pathos, imagine how much healthier children would be. Do you care about children? Pathos. Logos, studies show that students who exercise regularly improve their test scores. So it's pulling on some kind of logic, cause and effect, right? Back to our fallacies. This is number 4. Appeal to emotion. It's a fallacy to appeal to an emotion. Using emotions instead of logic to persuade. This is very common. Emotional appeals are intuitive and persuasive, but often lack logical support. So here's an example of a body paragraph that appeals to emotion. It's also called the pathetic appeal. Pathos, pathetic. Claim, video games should be banned. Evidence, some children spend hours playing video games. Commentary, think of the harm these games do to innocent children's minds. Transition, therefore video games are destroying society. Here's the revision. Excessive gaming may negatively impact children's behavior. Establishing screen time limits could reduce these effects while preserving benefits. So they're injecting a little bit of logic into this revision. Task number 4 on your handout. Correct the emotional appeal. Rewrite this paragraph to replace emotional reasoning with logical reasoning. If we don't ban video games, children's minds will be ruined forever. Ready? Revise. All right, here's a possible revision. Compare yours to this one. Research shows that excessive video game use can negatively impact children's behavior and academic performance. By implementing time limits and encouraging balanced recreational activities, parents and educators can help mitigate these effects while allowing children to enjoy games responsibly. Why this revision works. Logical reasoning. It focuses on research-based evidence rather than exaggerated emotional appeals. It has a balanced approach. It suggests practical solutions instead of extreme measures. And it establishes credibility. Ethos. Maintains a calm and rational tone by improving persuasiveness. Here's fallacy number 5, called a red herring. A red herring is when you introduce irrelevant information to distract from the argument. Why it's common. Students may introduce unrelated details intentionally or unintentionally to avoid addressing the core issue. Just as a side note, the red herring comes from detectives' novels, where a criminal would leave a trail using a dead fish, it's like a herring, to lead the dog, the bloodhound, into a wrong direction, to distraction, so that the criminal could get away. So here is an example body paragraph that uses a red herring. The claim, we need stricter rules for public park usage. Evidence, park maintenance costs are increasing due to litter. The commentary, besides, some parks allow dogs and not everyone likes dogs. Transition, therefore stricter rules are necessary. Here's a possible revision. Since litter increases maintenance costs, stricter waste disposal rules would reduce expenses and keep parks clean. Task number 5, red herring or relevant. Decide if each statement is relevant or a red herring. Litter increases park maintenance costs. Stricter waste disposal rules would help reduce expenses. I'll give you 30 seconds for this one. Relevant. This one makes sense. Let's try another one. Decide if this statement is relevant or a red herring. Some parks allow dogs, and not everyone likes dogs. 30 seconds. Red herring. Fallacy number 6. Circular reasoning. Circular reasoning is when you restate the claim as evidence. Why it's common? Students might restate the claim in different words instead of supporting it with evidence. Here is an example body paragraph that includes an example of circular reasoning. Here's the claim. Homework is essential for students. Evidence: students should do homework to improve learning. The commentary is homework is essential because it helps students learn. The transition: therefore, homework is necessary for academic success. A possible revision could be homework reinforces skills taught in class and allows students to practice independently, improving long-term understanding. Task number 6 on your handout. Highlight where the argument loops back on itself. Homework is important because students need homework. Ready? Go. So, in highlighting the loop, the claim homework is important, and the evidence because students need homework, the argument simply restates the claim homework is important as its evidence, creating a logical loop without providing external justification or proof. Here is a possible revision. Homework is important because it allows students to practice and reinforce what they've learned in class, improving their understanding and retention of the material. This revision breaks the loop by providing a concrete reason to support the claim. Fallacy number 7 is the slippery slope, suggesting that one action will inevitably lead to an extreme consequence. Why it's common? Oversimplified cause and effect reasoning can make arguments seem more dramatic or urgent. Here's an example body paragraph of slippery slope. The claim is allowing students to use calculators will harm their math skills. Evidence: calculators reduce the need for mental math. Commentary: If we let students use calculators, they'll never learn basic math and society will collapse. Transition, thus calculators should be banned in schools. Here's a possible revision. While calculators reduce the need for mental math in some cases, they can also enhance understanding of complex concepts. Balance is key. Task 7 on your handout is to revise this slippery slope. Rewrite this exaggerated reasoning. If we let students bring phones to school, they'll stop paying attention, fail all their classes, and never graduate. Ready? Revise. Okay, here is a possible revision with a little bit better reasoning. While phones can sometimes be a distraction in class, setting clear guidelines for their use can help students stay focused while still benefiting from the educational tools that smartphones provide. Why this works. It avoids exaggeration. It removes the overly dramatic outcomes, failing all classes and never graduating. It introduces balance, acknowledges potential distractions while offering a practical solution, and it promotes rational thinking, focuses on guidelines and responsible use rather than banning phones outright. This revision provides a reasoned approach that approaches the concern without relying on extreme predictions. Part 3, evaluating evidence and avoiding fallacies. Stronger versus weaker evidence. Here is the criteria for strong evidence. Strong evidence is relevant, specific, and credible. Weak evidence is vague, anecdotal, and unrelated. For example, here is an example of weak evidence. A few students said they dislike online classes. Here's an example of strong evidence. A national survey found 80% of students felt more engaged in interactive online courses. So, on strengthening evidence, you need to select the stronger evidence for this claim. Online learning engages students effectively. Evidence options. A. Some students like online classes. B. A national study found 85% of students felt more engaged in online courses with interactive features. B is the correct answer. Obviously, it has more data. Facts, logic, statistics. Fallacy number 8, false cause. Assuming causation from correlation. Why it's common. Students may incorrectly assume causation based on coincidence or sequence. Here's the example paragraph with false cause. Our team started winning after buying new uniforms. Evidence, we haven't lost a game since. Commentary, clearly the uniforms caused our success. Transition, therefore uniforms are essential. Here's a possible revision. Improved practice routines or coaching strategies likely contributed to the team's success, with uniforms boosting morale as a secondary factor. Task 8 on your handout, correct the false cause fallacy. Here's your example. After the school implemented a new lunch menu, test scores improved significantly. Clearly, the new lunch options are the reason for the higher test scores. What you need to do is read the paragraph, pay close attention to how the cause and effect relationship is presented, identify the fallacy, what logical error is being made in this argument, and then rewrite the paragraph. Correct the reasoning to make it logical and evidence-based. Here's a hint. Does the evidence prove the stated cause, or could there be other explanations? Ready? Revise. So, this is the fallacy of false cause, or post hoc ergo propter hoc. The argument assumes the new lunch menu caused the improved test scores without considering other factors or providing direct evidence. Possible revision would be, while the new lunch menu may have contributed to improved student health and focus, the increase in test scores could also result from other factors, such as enhanced teaching strategies or additional academic resources. Further research is needed to determine the exact cause of the improvement. Fallacy number 9 is the bandwagon. This is when you argue that something is true or correct because it is popular. Why it's common? Peer pressure and social trends tend to influence students, leading to arguments based on popularity. So here's the example paragraph with bandwagon effect in it. Claim, streaming music is better than buying CDs. Evidence, millions of people use music streaming apps every day. Commentary, since everyone streams music, it's the only worthwhile way to enjoy music. Your transition is, therefore, CDs are outdated and irrelevant. A possible revision would be streaming music is convenient for many users, but CDs offer unique advantages like high quality audio and ownership. Both formats have value depending on personal preferences. Task 9 on your handout is avoiding the bandwagon effect. Revise this paragraph to avoid relying on popularity. Streaming music is better than CDs because millions of people use streaming services every day. Ready, revise. So, one possible revision would be streaming music offers benefits like convenience, access to large libraries of songs, and personalized playlists. However, CDs provide advantages such as higher audio quality and ownership of physical copies, which some users may prefer depending on their priorities. Why this works? it avoids the popularity argument. It eliminates the reliance on the number of users as evidence of superiority. It presents balanced reasoning. It highlights the distinct advantages of both formats without dismissing one based on trends. And it encourages personal choice. It recognizes that the best option depends on individual needs and preferences. This revision removes the bandwagon fallacy and strengthens the argument by focusing on tangible benefits. And here's the last one: appeal to ignorance. Appealing to ignorance is when you argue something is true because it hasn't been proven false. Why this is common? Students sometimes interpret a lack of evidence as proof of their claim. Here's an example paragraph with appeal to ignorance. Claim: aliens exist in our galaxy. Evidence: no one has proven aliens don't exist. Commentary: since there's no evidence against alien life, they must exist. Transition: therefore, it's reasonable to believe aliens are real. One possible revision could be, although we have no evidence disproving the existence of aliens, the lack of direct evidence supporting alien life means the claim requires further investigation. Task number 10 on your handout: challenge the appeal to ignorance. Identify the flaw in this argument and rewrite it logically. No one has proven ghosts don't exist, so they must be real. Ready? Revise. So what is the flaw in this argument? The argument assumes that because there is no evidence disproving the existence of ghosts, they must exist. What's the logical error? A lack of evidence is not proof of a claim. So here's a possible revision. While there is no definitive evidence to prove the existence of ghosts, further scientific investigation and credible data are required before drawing conclusions. Why this works? It acknowledges uncertainty. The revised argument avoids making unsupported claims. It focuses on evidence, encouraging the need for research and credible proof. And it has a neutral tone. It does not lean toward accepting or rejecting the claim without facts. In other words, it removes bias. This revision removes the appeal to ignorance and centers the argument on logic and inquiry. So here is a quick formative activity: revising body paragraphs. Revise the following paragraph for stronger evidence, logical transitions, and fallacy-free reasoning. Your claim is schools should require PE. Your evidence: exercise is healthy. Commentary: kids like PE, so it must be good for them. Transition: thus PE should be mandatory. Remove any fallacies, strengthen the evidence, and improve the transitions. Here's a possible revision. Schools should require PE as part of their curriculum. Research from the CDC shows that regular physical activity improves academic performance, reduces stress, and enhances overall health in students. By participating in PE, Students not only improve their physical health, but they also develop important life skills such as teamwork, discipline, and goal setting. Additionally, regular exercise has been linked to better focus and memory, which can positively impact their academic success. Therefore, making PE mandatory ensures that all students benefit from these advantages, contributing to a healthier and more effective learning environment. The changes that were made is we included stronger evidence, we cited a credible source with specific benefits of exercise, we removed the fallacies, eliminated the weak reasoning, kids like PE so it must be good for them. We improved the transitions, we used a more logical and persuasive transition to connect the ideas, and we expanded the commentary, explained how PE contributes to both physical and academic well-being, adding depth to the argument. This revision strengthens the paragraph by adding depth, evidence, and clear reasoning. So what are the key takeaways from this lesson? Logical transitions connect claims, evidence, and commentary smoothly to maintain coherence. We learn to avoid fallacies, recognize and revise common fallacies, top 10, but there are a lot more than just those 10. Fallacies like hasty generalization, strawman, and false cause. We learned about persuasive appeals, using ethos, pathos, and logos effectively to strengthen our arguments. And we learned the difference between strong and weak evidence, and we need to support claims with credible, specific, and relevant evidence. When you finish this lesson, please complete the daily exit ticket. Answer the following questions. What did you learn today? How well do you understand in what you learned today? If you need extra help, do you plan to attend tutorials? And do you have any additional comments or questions about today's lesson? Make sure you fill that out on that exit ticket survey.